On Friday, the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu gave a media briefing, about the well-known case of the rape of a 7-year-old girl from Bergview College in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. So according to Mchunu, samples taken from the 7-year-old child were subjected to DNA testing, and the victim did not contain any foreign DNA. I'm talking about the 7-year-old girl now. So 3 people of interest have subsequently surfaced, he added, and additional DNA testing was or is being conducted. I want to speak to Brigadier Athlenda Mathe now. There seems to be some confusion about what exactly the police minister said there. Whose DNA was taken? Was their DNA taken? Was it compared to the DNA of the 7-year-old child? Athlenda Mathe, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on SABC News this morning. All right, so what is the story here? Was there any DNA taken from these persons of interest, and was it compared to the DNA of the 7-year-old girl?
A very good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. As rightly indicated by the Minister on Friday, we are dealing with a very complex investigation that requires us to conduct and implement various investigative techniques so that we are able to get to the perpetrator. I can confirm that DNA was taken from the child, and as rightly indicated by the Minister on Friday, there was no foreign DNA, meaning no one else's DNA was found on the child during analysis, right? During investigations. But we did, what the Minister did confirm is that there were persons of interest that were identified, and their DNA and buccal samples were taken in terms of utilizing them in our investigation. So let me firstly indicate that in all Schedule 8 offences, murder, rape, and serious and violent crimes, it is a norm and it is a standard procedure that the police, if you are identified as a possible suspect, your DNA must be taken so that we can rule out the possibility of you being a suspect in the case, or to confirm that this DNA does place you on a crime scene. So in terms of how we conduct our work, Criselda, the Minister did not on Friday mention these persons of interest because it is not in our nature as the police to identify who is a person of interest up until that particular person is arrested, brought before court, and is charged.
Get some clarification. So from these persons of interest, buccal samples or DNA was taken from these persons of interest. Was that DNA compared to the DNA of the little girl? Because you indicated that there was no foreign DNA that was found on the DNA sample taken from the little girl. So was there a comparison made between the samples of the persons of interest that were taken and the little girl? I think that's where we need the clarification there.
Look, DNA will be, when you conduct an investigation, Criselda, you will follow through different leads. You utilize different techniques to get to the perpetrator. So if we did not find DNA on the victim, it does not mean we should not take DNA from those that were seen around the child or those that have been identified as persons of interest. DNA and buccal samples assist us greatly in investigations, even though they would not necessarily be utilized to solve this particular case. They can, if put into the database of our DNA database, they can possibly help us to get a profile of a certain person, and perhaps even in some cases assist us to identify suspects in other crimes that have been committed elsewhere. So it's not necessarily to say let us compare it to this child, because Minister did confirm that no DNA was found. But it could be that DNA that we collect, it can unravel and help us solve other crimes in our investigation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there, Brigadier, that, once buccal samples or DNA is taken from someone, you could possibly look at other cases if those individuals or persons of interest may be involved in other cases. But my question is, from the DNA that was taken from the 3 persons of interest, I hear you when you say that no foreign DNA was found when a sample was taken from the little girl. Was there a comparison made from the 3 people of interest to the DNA of the little girl? Has that been done? Yes, I know that you are going to look at other cases as well. I'm speaking specifically about this case.
In relation to this particular case, the comparison, there was no need for a comparison, first of all, because there was no DNA found on the child. But the importance of taking DNA from the identified suspects is to assist us in investigations, because even though DNA was not found on the child, you might find that DNA can hit a positive link on other cases and help us to find maybe a possible murder suspect that has been on a run, a possible serial rapist that has been on the run, and so on. So it can assist us at a later stage on this particular case. But at this stage, there has not been a link to the girl's, the child's case. But investigations are still continuing. We still have a long way to go. We are quite confident that as investigations continue, we will be led in the right direction, and eventually we will get justice for the child.
Brigadier, I know that this investigation is incredibly sensitive, and I think as the media we're trying as best as we can to also allow for the investigation, especially because it involves such a little girl. But of course, these 3 persons of interest, without mentioning, of course, their names. I understand the sensitivity of not mentioning their names, but are these 3 persons of interest persons that may have been around the child at the time?
Absolutely. In our investigations, we will follow all possible leads. We will take statements. We will collect and gather all evidence. So if a preliminary investigation does lead us to identify this particular suspect, we will go to that particular suspect, take their statement, also take the buccal sample, because of why this is a Schedule 8 offense. It involves the rape of a minor. So we are quite satisfied that so far, those that we have identified as the possible suspects, and we are not saying they are suspects, they are possible suspects, because remember, buccal sample, DNA, and other investigative techniques firstly assist us to rule out the possibility to remove a perpetrator or an innocent person from a crime scene, or it will help us to put the perpetrator on the crime scene. So we are quite satisfied that so far those that were possible suspects have been cooperating, their buccal samples were taken, and we are continuing with the investigation. So it doesn't mean if we did not find any foreign DNA, then the investigation falls flat. No, we are following other possible leads, other investigative techniques to get us to the perpetrator. And we are hopeful. If you look at the track record of our family violence, child protection and sexual investigations investigators, they have put so many perpetrators behind bars. In 2 years, we are talking about 35,000 GBVF-related suspects and accused persons that have been convicted in the 2 years, 4,500, with 660 of them that were given life sentences. So we've got full faith and confidence in the team that has been set up. You will remember that last week the National Commissioner deployed the senior investigator, the head of the FCS there. So we are quite confident that soon there will be a breakthrough, but we are going to need the cooperation of all involved, the family, the child, and so on. And the minister did indicate on Friday that the focus now, because it is a single witness crime, meaning the child, the victim herself, is the only witness in this crime. It means there's a need for more assessment on the child so that we can get to what exactly happened and who is behind this.
And just finally, Brigadier Mathe, I think given the fact that you've now clarified that a DNA or buccal samples were taken from 3 persons of interest, but that DNA or buccal samples were not compared to that of the little girl, because when you did a DNA test or you took samples from the little girl, there was no foreign DNA that was found on the little girl. What does this mean for the investigation then of police, while you've indicated that you're still investigating this matter? Because DNA would have been a very crucial part of trying to, I guess, get to the bottom of, what happened to, and I'm very careful with my wording here, how all of this had happened.
Look, we have solved many cases without DNA being found on a suspect or a victim. We utilize other evidence that is collected to now place the perpetrator on the crime scene.
Okay.
So, yes, that is why we have indicated it is quite complex, because you are right. If DNA is found, it's much easier than to place the perpetrator on the crime scene. But if DNA is not found, it means the case is more complex, as indicated by the minister on Friday, to say it is not an easy case. It means we need to place our efforts on other investigative techniques, collect other evidence that will assist us to get to the perpetrator. And that is exactly where we are in terms of investigation. We are going into other methods and we are following other leads to get to our perpetrator.
It's very important that we get this information out. Thank you very much, Brigadier Athlenda Mathe. Of course, making some clarifications, quite a number of media reports. I think of also what I read out of that press briefing that was given by the police minister, Senzo Mchunu. This was on Friday in Matatiele, relating to, of course, the incident involving the 7-year-old girl. And, a lot more intricacies around the naming of the little girl, even though the mother had decided to use the name of the girl, the protection of the child going forward, many things that the media have to navigate through in this particular instance. How you, if at all, you mention the name of the child. Do you identify the mother in this instance? Because the identification of the mother would mean the identification of the child. A very, very complex matter. But Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, thank you very much indeed. Clarification there from the spokesperson of the National Police Commissioner, that is Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, talking to us about what came out of that press conference, developments relating to this rape case of the 7-year-old girl from Matatiele. And the clarification there is that there are 3 persons of interest. Buccal samples have been taken from those 3 persons of interest, but they were not compared to the DNA of the child, because in this instance, Brigadier Mathe says that was not necessary because there was no foreign DNA found on the 7-year-old girl when these tests, of course, had been done. So no foreign DNA found on the 7-year-old girl, but 3 persons of interest. Buccal samples have been taken, or DNA has been taken from those 3 persons of interest. And while the police say that DNA does speed up the process, of course, to identify if indeed those 3 persons of interest are suspects in this particular matter, in this particular instance, that comparison was not made because no foreign DNA was found on the samples that were taken from the 7-year-old girl. A very complex matter, and also how the media needs to navigate through it to try and avoid secondary victimization of the child, irrespective, I guess, of the fact that the mother had also gone public with her name and it also gone on, some television networks, and a host of issues, I guess, that the media also needs to navigate pertaining to this very, very sensitive matter.